City of Sandwich, Illinois, Mayoral Proclamation, June 16, 2025. Whereas Brian Vogel has served the City of Sandwich with dedication and distinction as the Water Superintendent from June 4, 2001 to June 13, 2025. And whereas during his tenure, Brian Vogel has demonstrated commitment and expertise in managing the city's water resources, ensuring safety and reliability of our water supply. And whereas his efforts have contributed to the well-being and quality of life of the residents of Sandwich, earning him the admiration of his colleagues in the community. And whereas Brian Vogel's retirement marks the conclusion of a career characterized by dedication to public service. And whereas the City of Sandwich wishes to express its appreciation for his years of service and to extend best wishes for a fulfilling and enjoyable retirement. Now therefore, I, Todd Latham, Mayor of the City of Sandwich, Illinois, do hereby proclaim June 13, 2025 as Brian Vogel Day. And the City of Sandwich, we urge all citizens to recognize Brian Vogel as a proud member of our community. It's witness here unto my hand caused by the City of Sandwich, Illinois, fixed this 13th day of June, which is the 16th day of June, by myself as mayor. So Brian, if you'll come forward, I'll go ahead and give you the proclamation. You can hang it on your wall at home or wherever, in the garage. All right, a few other items I'd like to cover. Just remind all council members that IML is open. That's our conference that we attend as elected officials. It's 112th annual conference, September 18th through 20th. So if you'd like to attend, please let me know. We'll work with the staff to get you registered. This past week, we did receive from the Illinois EPA our payment schedule for repayment of our infrastructure improvement at the wastewater treatment plant for fiscal year 25-26. The amount will be $723,750. And then for the budget committee next year for 26-27, it'll be $737,542. We'll make those payments twice a year until it's paid off in 2045. You'll have a chance tonight to talk about the interim water operator. We have had the application still open. We've had some applicants. We haven't been able to fill that position, but we'll be continuing on through the review process. In the meantime, under the regular meeting, you'll have two options. I believe it's H or I. It's a company or an individual. So when we get to the regular agenda, you can choose one of those. If you have any desire for discussion, that can come up on our agenda at any point. If you want to bring it up as an alderperson or someplace under new business, you're welcome to do so. But we are required by the Illinois EPA within 30 days to have a Class B operator. The Class B is required for the filter part of the water treatment plant. We do have C and D operators for the city that can handle other areas such as testing. So this will bring someone in so we're compliant. We've done this before several times with our wastewater treatment plant, but at least two individuals that had to get their license, so we had an outside operator sign off to make sure the plant was in compliance. So this is not anything new for us or other municipalities, but you will need to hopefully approve someone tonight so we can get that firmer individual in to have sustainability in our water program. Any questions? Okay. Attorney report?
Just a couple of things. The main thing is that we have a trial set on one of our cases for August 20th. And so I'll need to probably talk to Ian and Jeff about that. And then the other things we'll address throughout the meeting. Unless anyone has anything for me.
Sure, listen to.
Oh, yes. Okay, so there were questions about I know we were talking about the water bills, and one of the questions that Denise had asked is how to make sure that we get the water bills paid. And so I had found a provision that I would like, if the council is willing, to implement that requires that landlords or the owner of a property has the property water in their name. And then when a person sells the property, the new owner is required to come to the council, or to the clerk, and get information regarding what the move-in date will be, when the water will be put in their name, and then they can put on, either on the closing statement or something along those lines, the final water bill. And so we can get the final reading for that date, at least approximate. And then the other thing that the revision would do is it has very specific language saying that any unpaid water bills are with the property. And so that would then put everyone that is purchasing property in the city on notice that they need to make sure that the person that they're buying the house from has paid their water bill. Because there's a risk that if a lien were to need to be filed, it could be filed against whoever. So it's just making sure that what has happened is the city has kind of gotten stiffed by people that have left and didn't pay their water bills. And so we just want to try to make sure that that isn't an issue going forward. So that is one of the things I would like to propose to help Denise manage those issues. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or questions on that.
This is for rental property you're talking about.
It would be for all property.
Well, I have a problem with the rental property because we only bill every 3 months. So if someone leaves and the landlord returns their security deposit, and then all of a sudden 2 months later we show up with a bill, it's not fair to the landlord. If we billed monthly, that'd be a different story.
So I think
I
that
think we're opening up a can of worms there.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think that there are a couple different ways that it could be done. One could be, again, a procedure where they come in and ask for a reading because they're leaving. And I know a lot of municipalities where it's required anyways. And so, for instance, I don't remember what municipality you're aware of, but I'm aware of a municipality, Mount Morris, Illinois, that's what it is. It just is what it is, and then it's on the landlord to worry about how they charge for the water. So a lot of places, you just include it in the rent, bump the rent a little bit, or you have an agreement in your lease that they will pay that, if they get sent a letter. So I do understand what you're saying, but I think we need to make sure that we're protecting the city's interests too.
Okay, other questions from council? Okay. Clerk's report.
I have nothing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Treasurer's report, Sandy Kohler.
Nothing at this time.
City Administrator report, Jeff Penman.
I just want to give everybody an update. We found out late last week that we are delayed a couple weeks at least on Main Street reconstruction. We had submitted all of our paperwork to NICOR back in November. We found out, was it the first week in June or was it the last week in May, that there were some conflicts. So they're working through some of those. They've redesigned it and it's being sent back through IDOT, but we are hoping that that's going to hopefully just be a couple weeks and not longer than that. So things are still moving forward, just not today. 724 North Main, everybody knows that one's pretty much on the ground. There's still some restoration to take place, I believe. We can talk about that in a little bit. And then there had also been discussion from the council in the last few weeks about the utility late fee. Just we had instituted it a couple years ago at 20%. And then I know the mayor had put forth a proposal that was more gradual, which has sounded like what the council was really looking for, was based on how big the bill was, what the what the penalty would be. The truth of the matter is our software, we can't implement something like that at this point in time. So I guess my recommendation would be that if the council's looking to do something with that, to lower it, to make it a lower percentage or a lump sum fee. And unfortunately, our software won't allow us to do commercial and residential for one or the other. So we are limited with that. We are hoping to update that software later this year. We'll see what abilities it has at that point in time, but as of right now, that's not a system we can implement. So just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that. I'd entertain any other questions.
Question from the council?
Reference to water bills, if the software can't handle that, is it something that can just be done manually?
Do you want to speak to that, Denise? He asked if that could be something that's done manually as far as making those calculations. I think it would be very difficult to do.
It would be difficult.
Especially the way it was laid out. I mean, there were like 6 or 7 different areas, and then every one would have to be calculated separately. I don't think I could recommend that.
Nor I.
All right, I'll bring it back up under me then, because like I said, we talked about this a month ago, and this is the first time that we've talked about it since. I know the mayor said over the past week or weekend, at some point, I can't remember, he had said they had another complaint about a late charge or something like that. So just want to make sure I follow up. I had a neighbor call me about it again, and so like I said, I'll propose something, and then maybe 1st of July, first meeting in July, we can have something on there to go forward. So it's changed until we get better software, and then if we can come up with something better for everybody, but.
Just to add to that, I mean, when we originally did the 20%, that's when we had the lower rates, right? And so when everything kind of increased, that 20% now might be a little inflated. So it might be advantageous to take what the current situations have been and create some calculations to see where they would come in, because our main concern was we were not recapturing our expenses of turning on and off the facilities. So that was our biggest thing, right, Denise?
Well, I believe it was a $10 fee before, is all it was.
Correct, yeah. So whether it's a flat fee or whatever, but I say take that statistical information, tabulate it, and come up with something, so. The mayor kind of did some of that on the background already, so.
I did that, but I also wrote a proposal to staff
Yeah.
with 5 different options.
And I think just what Jeff and Denise are kind of getting at is, okay, sorry, Denise said she couldn't hear me. I think what they're getting at is, at least for where we're at now, all our software can really handle is either a lump sum or a lower rate, lower percentage. So I think that the easiest thing is gonna be for you guys to propose a lower percentage. I will say, I think that most municipalities do just 10%. So I think we had $10 before. So that's, just something, but I think that's what our options are with our software right now, is a lump sum or 10%, or lower percent, sorry.
Okay, I'm going to jump in. My recommendation, it's always been my recommendation, whatever rate you go with, a flat rate. It's just easier for us to calculate, and it's easier for the residents to accept. It's like a credit card. You get a flat rate. You aren't charged a percentage on the late charge.
Have we had any more issues with people not getting bills or bills coming late?
Not lately, but historically, for some reason, in July, we always have a batch that doesn't get delivered, but we haven't had anything recently in the last billing.
I've had no complaints with mail delivery. It is usually July, and then we hear about it in August.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
other comments from council? All right. City Department reports, EMA Director Tony Eberly.
Just for awareness, on Saturday, June 28th, at the Public Safety Building, we're hosting a joint BNSF hazmat training with our fire department as well as the Army Reserves that my team is partnering with. So just wanted to share that. That's all that I had.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Engineering, Kurt Detman.
All right, so the 2024 pavement management program, the final restoration has been coordinated and approved. The final payment approval for that work is coming tonight, and IDOT has already accepted all the final quantities, so that's good to hear on that part. Just some additional pieces for Main Street. The earliest that Fisher would be out would be sometime mid to late next week is what they're looking at. They're working on structural manufacturing right now for sanitary sewers, because that's where they're going to start. And then EEI is working on the city engineer construction assistance portion contract that would cover things such as site meetings, inspections, change order review, and engineering revision approvals based on just kind of how that role is fit as a city engineer side to coordinate with HLR staff, contractors, and keep the city's interest in mind for that project. Estimated T&M contract to be around $35,000, which is just a little bit higher than the Latham Street project that was about 4 years ago, mostly due to just rate increases is the most part. Fairwinds subdivision 4A, construction's getting going underway out there. We've had pre-con, we've had coordination with them, building and streets and sanitary and myself, we're all making sure everything's going right out there. So we'll see how that continues. Construction access is marked out there, so it's very limited where they can go, and the signs are up, so they'll be taking care of that. And then lastly, the city's GIS system is up and running for staff to use, and they are actively using it. And kind of going forward as they run into problems, questions, coordination, things they want to change, update, the city will need some sort of a maintenance program, and typically what EEI does for other municipalities is we provide a maintenance contract that's just T&M budget for a year that goes through and assists the staff with additional training and coordination and making sure their systems are getting updated and improved as they use them and get better at them. So we'll be putting together that contract. Usually the first year is in the neighborhood of $5,000, and then it usually goes down after that for the second consecutive years as things get easier and there's less coordination year to year. And that's pretty much all I got.
Okay, questions for our engineer? Okay, hearing none. Code enforcement, Kevin Fernandez. I think Kevin's got a presentation tonight and an update on our code enforcement for the city.
Go ahead and wait a second. I got to pull up your
It's a green button on.
Sorry, Kevin, I must have misplaced your. Sometimes I get lost. There we go. That'll suffice. There you go. All right. So Kevin and I had talked a little bit and wanted tonight just to go over some of the things that he's been working on with code enforcement, kind of the purpose and, what the process is so that he can kind of go through that. I would ask if you have specific questions on specific properties, if you could give him an email tomorrow, I'd certainly appreciate it. But just so we don't spend a ton of time on it, but certainly want to let Kevin go ahead and run through this. So there you go.
So first, I'd like to start off with the purpose of code enforcement, and that is especially the maintaining and improving quality of life and to make sure that all the properties in the city of Sandwich maintain their value. And that is really the main purpose of code enforcement. And what we're really looking for from property owners is mostly compliance. We're not really trying to put a bunch of people into adjudication. Adjudication only happens once a month. So to really have that kind of swelled up to the point where we won't get anything done if everything moves to adjudication. So I really try to make an effort to talk to property owners so that way we can get everything solved before it comes to that point. And so I want to move specifically onto the steps of code enforcement. Everything runs under the IPMC, or the International Property Maintenance Code, specifically the 2015 edition. This is pretty much the code enforcement Bible. I have to follow this exactly as it is stated, or if there are amendments made by the City of Sandwich Municipal Code, then I can follow the amendments. So to start off, we do not give citations right off the bat. We are required to give a notice of violation and provide a reasonable amount of time for the property owner to fix the issue. This must be done first before any citation is administered. Once the citation is written, even though I'm the one that writes the citation, it is processed by the police department, the City of Sandwich Police Department, and then that's when adjudication will happen. Adjudication, as I said earlier, only happens once a month, and then and I do not determine the fines or even the deadline. I can give suggestions, but the adjudication judge is the one who determines all that. And so I'd like to go over some common examples of code violations. And also, this presentation does have a dual purpose. I intend on having this presentation be readily available online, specifically under the code enforcement section. So I was hoping that if anyone had any questions about code enforcement and they're not here at this moment, they can then look online and then be able to read through this. So tall grass, weeds, it must exceed 8 inches. However, I am able to write a notice of violation at 6 inches. Inoperable vehicles, in IPMC, it very specifically states that the vehicle must be in major disrepair, stripped, or dismantled. That is why sometimes there may be vehicles out there that might look inoperable. However, under the IPMC, it is not considered inoperable. Rubbish and trash, pretty simple, just excessive accumulation in public view. Signs, this one mostly is a problem around Route 34. Any signs on the right-of-way are not allowed to be there, so any signs on Route 34 especially will be taken out. And deteriorating structures, so that could be fallen fences, sheds, collapsed roofs, and things like that. And I've stated this throughout the presentation, but I only really enforce IPMC codes and then the City of Sandwich Municipal Code. We do not enforce HOA rules, so if the HOA states that the grass cannot exceed 4 inches, I cannot enforce that. I can only enforce once it exceeds 8 inches. And also, code enforcement does not enforce criminal law, so I will not be stopping anyone on the streets, administering street tickets, or anything like that. And this are common complaints I hear about, which are actually not code violations. I believe this is important since I get calls about this rather frequently. The number of cars on someone's property, the City of Sandwich does not have any limits to the number of cars that are allowed. Although other cities might have limits like this, if you wish to implement limits like this, I'm sure there is a process that can be done. But as of right now, that is not a code violation. Along with parking cars on the grass on their own property, that is also allowed under the IPMC and Sandwich Municipal Code. And the last one are trees encroaching on neighboring property. Trees encroaching on property is only a code violation if it is on public sidewalks, streets, and any other sort of public property. But if it's on anything other than that, it is not a code violation. The last slide is mostly just to encourage people to talk to their neighbors. Because of all the steps that I'm required to take, code enforcement can be a lengthy process, and so because of that, usually it is faster to talk to your neighbor and try to get things resolved in that manner. However, code enforcement is always still here. And as a general rule, we really do try to stay out of neighbor disputes. Again, I do not handle criminal law, and civil disputes can be handled by talking to your neighbor. And this isn't on the presentation, but I believe every alderman has a copy of my report. And if you do not, I intended on reading out the notes section here. So I'll just read it word for word. As of writing this report, there have been 122 code violations that have happened since the start of 2025. I joined the position of code enforcement in the middle, well, more like the late August of 2024. From August to December, or about 5 months, there have been 77 code violations. In total, since starting my work in August 2024, there have been a total of 199 code violations, and as of today, that has since gone up to 201 code violations.
Okay, for questions for Mr. Fernandez?
I do.
Yep.
So there's a couple on here I just want to ask about. One of them started on March 27th, and it only had to do with unused refrigerator, trash, rubbish, etc. And it's still ongoing to June 18th. And we're talking almost 3 months to remove a refrigerator, trash, and rubbish. Why do we give somebody that long?
That has more to do with the adjudicator, correct?
That's correct.
Because what we did is we provided we gave them the notice, then we filed the citation. Then it goes to the adjudication process. And at that point, it's up to the adjudicator as to how much time they're going to give them to rectify the situation. We can make a recommendation, but they're still going to be the one who has the authority as to how long it takes. So depending on how well somebody pleads their case, they may give them extra time. Am I correct, Kevin?
That is all correct.
I mean, removing a refrigerator doesn't seem like it'd take that long.
I don't disagree.
So essentially where it says citation, that's then when the adjudication process kicks in, right?
Right.
So everything that precedes that is all Kevin's trying to work diligently without going through the adjudication process.
Exactly. The aim is always compliance, trying to get people to do it, but when they can't do it, then it's got to go through adjudication. I mean, I suppose we don't have the timing down perfect, but, like Wednesday of this week is adjudication again. But if he writes something on Thursday or Friday, it's not going to be adjudicated until next month. So there could be 7 days that they need to be able to come into compliance, and then he issues a citation, and it could be 3 weeks later before he comes to adjudication. So I think we're still trying to learn the ebb and flow of the process, but the violations are, the big thing is people are being notified, and then we're following through with that. Now, as Kevin said, he's handling the property side. Obviously, the police handle the vehicles and criminal side, and then anything to do with the buildings or building code is obviously Ian as our building official. So that kind of explains, it's a three-pronged approach.
Okay, anyone else? Other questions?
I had
Yeah.
one question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, I see most of these, a letter sent, and I'm just curious, why wouldn't you knock on the door or talk to people during the daytime and ahead of time? I mean, document it that way, because a lot of these, I'm sure, just you making contact the first time takes care of the situations. So rather than waiting for a letter and then a couple of weeks goes by, they don't respond to the letter, and then you do finally have to reach out with a phone call or something, it seems like there's a little bit of a delay there also.
Yeah, I try my effort to make contact in multiple ways. If I'm able to get their email, I'll try to get their email as well, or make a phone call. Sometimes I do knock, and if they don't answer, usually I go for a letter instead. For a good while, we have not had code enforcement in the city, and I think people aren't entirely used to that just yet. So whenever I go to knock, some people, I feel their initial reaction is wondering who I really am. Even though I have a vest to identify myself, it says code enforcement on the back and everything. However, I feel that because people aren't used to this sort of standard yet, they're not very willing to answer the door normally.
I think it also helps Rich with the adjudication process, so we can also file that documentation when we come before the adjudicator.
And I get that, but just from a law enforcement standpoint, I would think making contact to begin with, it may never have to get to adjudication, and making contact in person would be just as easy to document it that way that you've been there. Same thing with the weed violation, where it's the same offender time after time after time. I would think after the very first time that they've been given notice, and then if they've had to get cited because they still haven't done it in a certain amount of time. After that, anytime that they're over, I wouldn't give them a letter anymore. I would cite them each and every time because they already know, you can play the game. And if they keep putting it off and they only have to mow twice a year because that's how long they put it off, then that stinks for their neighbors and the rest of the community, so.
And Kevin, you've also hung tags on their doors too, to let them know you've been there, correct?
Yeah,
And if you'll come back and write a letter.
I've developed a sheet that I usually leave on the door as well. It marks the violation, and I usually leave notes as well. And all of my contact information is on there for them to reach out. And specifically for repeat offenders, I am still required to go with the notice of violation every single time. So it can still, even with repeat offenders, it can be a lengthy process. However, if it comes to adjudication multiple times, I do know their fine goes higher.
Okay, Fred, do you have a question still?
Well, I just had a question in regards to we're under the 2015 code right now. Is there any desire to try to go to a more recent code, or is there a benefit in remaining in where we're at?
I believe that going to a more updated code could be to our benefit. I would need to look into it more thoroughly as well.
Okay.
I'm sure there's probably amendments that we would likely make in a more updated code too, because there are amendments that we currently.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I think
Newer
Fred,
updated code was already looked at a long time ago, and I know it was sent to Cassandra. So there were several codes that were looked at and sent.
I think the other
we
item that
passed
we
them.
want to look at too, pardon me?
Didn't we pass the,
We did the
That's one.
IRC and the,
National Building Code and.
yeah, we did all that, but there was another one, I think, that these guys had looked at, and that was a while ago. That was last fall
I think we
possibly.
passed the 2018, this was the 2021.
okay, I'll
But
review that.
I think one of the things I've talked to Kevin about too is that as we're getting these concerns, we probably need to look at them and figure out, are these things that we need to pass in our municipal code? Do we need to bring it back as an ordinance change or a text amendment to be able to say, okay, right now, the way the code's written, we can't enforce this, but this is something that it seems like we want to be able to enforce. How do we change the language to do that within the realm of the IPMC? So we will be looking to try and bring some of those recommendations back to the council, just so that we can be a little more clear in some of those and be able to address issues as they come up.
I do have a question. So you said when you go to people's homes, they might not understand who you are. Do you not have any type of city ID with your picture, your name, your?
I do have a city ID, and I always wear a vest that clearly states that I'm code enforcement and has the symbol of the city of Sandwich on the back and the side. So I always make an effort to identify myself first.
Okay, anyone else?
One final one. There was a violation, it says it's still ongoing, but it had to do with tall grass in front of a business. But you say even in the notes that would appear the city has been maintaining the grass at that property at least twice a year. Why would that still be ongoing when it's not the property owner's responsibility? It's a right-of-way.
That is,
It's the one over
Ward
on
3,
West
correct?
34, yeah.
513.
this must be an older copy. That is solved.
Okay. Yeah, this is the one we got 2 weeks ago, I believe, June 2nd. So,
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Kevin. All right, Alderman reports, City Council, Alderman Arnett.
Okay, for the sanitary plant, we'll be talking about things having to do with lift station later. One thing I want to talk about, and we will be talking about it later in regards to the water department staffing, stuff like that, is, I'm not sure, most of you guys know I sent an email out requesting something be put on the agenda. And I talked to Jeff in depth about that earlier, and I'd like to clear that up. So the email I've sent out was included in the packets. You guys are all more than welcome to read it. When we were in budget meetings, there were some things having to do with staffing and monies that I brought up questions about. At the budget meeting, we were told specifically, if you have questions in the future, about these line items, you are welcome to bring them to council. Put them on council to be discussed, because we were talking about freezing funds, moving forward. That is specifically what that email was about, is what we were told we could do at the budget meeting. So when I sent the email, that's all the request was.
Yeah, I responded back to you to ask if you could clarify, because you asked to move it to the regular meeting.
Well, that's what I didn't understand, because I clarified pretty well the exact line items of the budget.
Yeah, but for the public, they should know at least what we're doing with the line items, just not that we're discussing line items and expected to take action. And your second account number was missing a digit.
Okay, I'll look it up.
So I asked you just to clarify, I wasn't sure if there was a specific contractual service agreement, because there's, I think, 5 or 6 under that part of the code, or sorry, under the budget.
It was specifically under personnel, because under personnel, we have a full-time superintendent. Under personnel, we have an operator. Under contractual, we also have another operator listed. So my concern was for the city was we have this employee, this employee, this employee. And it's our job to look at the budget and to look at the funds we're going to spend, and it's our job to ask questions. And that is why I asked for it to be put here.
And so I guess there's 2 things here. If you want to change the budget, that is required to be done via an ordinance.
I understand.
Okay,
So
so-
we can't discuss it, make a
No,
decision?
yeah, you can discuss it. Isn't it on the agenda?
It is.
Yeah, it's on the agenda. The only thing that was taken off was for approval.
It's not on the agenda anywhere.
What, why, and again, I would be questioning the same thing. I don't understand why, even if you say there was a digit missing, you know specifically which line item he's talking about. And this budget passed, and 2 of the things he's talking about are things that we had discussed at budget time that were restricted items. Had they not been restricted items, I would not have voted for the budget. I voted for the budget with these items restricted, meaning we would bring them back up for a discussion, which was new hires, and specifically, it had to do with that contractual services, but the last thing listed there, which was the contractual water operator. Those are the things that we wanted to discuss. Those are the specific things, and we had talked about, and when you say that we would have to change the budget, no, it's in the budget. If it's a particular thing in that budget and we're gonna reclassify or whatever, we could then do that. But again, I think he was handcuffed in what he wanted to do. He should have been able to put on the agenda what he wanted, and you could have cleared up any kind of formatting, or there needs to be better wording for it, or anything else, but instead, there's not even the opportunity to act on it, only to discuss it. And I think that's what the concern would be.
I mean, I guess I have 2 questions. So first, I'm not sure what everyone's understanding of what restricted means. I can tell you that the ordinance and the budget don't specifically say what that is. I understand that there was discussion about that, and I can tell you that the municipal code and the various statutes about restricting, all a restriction means is that you can't spend it for any other purpose than the purpose listed. So it doesn't, I think that the intention was that it would not be spent until approved. Is that what?
Discussed and approved, yes, correct.
Okay, so
Exactly
that,
what we said.
I don't see that in the ordinance or in the budget. It does not say that.
Jeff, isn't that what we were
And I
specifically
understand-
talking about in the budget?
And I think the difference is, bring it before the council and discuss it, absolutely.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, yes, please.
I can add to this. So there were a few things that we did discuss that we were not going to purchase without further dialogue, right? So there were vehicles and equipment, that sort of thing.
And I saw that.
Additional personnel. I think where we fail to communicate articulately, say it for me.
Articulate.
Yeah, I can't even
I
say
did it too.
What ends up
Reading
happening
proclamation.
is, we need really a council recommendation. And what ends up happening is we don't have that recommendation, because the recommendation will show the pros and the cons of our decisions, of what the staff's decisions are, and it'll give the council a better feeling of what's right, wrong, or indifferent. And if we go that route, we will be in a better position. I know that this is a change, like Brian just left, and we have to figure out Plan B, right? So Plan B is, we have to get somebody else in here. We have 30 days to make that happen. The mayor has a plan to make it happen along with Jeff. And I think when it's kind of thrown into the agenda as it is, it gives a little bit of uncertainty, right? Because there might be some other thought processes of how that should happen. I think that's then where we should also talk with the liaisons for that section to kind of figure out what the next course of action should be, because that individual should be involved as well.
All right, so let me give you some examples, and our treasurer can correct me if I'm wrong. So this is out of the Illinois Public Accounting Manual. This is what all public accounting areas use. So restrictions, so specific funding. This is typically used when you receive state or federal funds that have limited use. Okay, that's a good example of a restriction. Restriction on a particular fund balance or a special use for a specific purpose. Restricting the transfer of funds by an amount as part of a permanent transfer. Restricting petty cash amounts, that's another restriction. Restriction by designation. So for example, you could have restricted $30,000 out of the budget through an amendatory act for HVAC. You could restrict donations from external sources, and you could restrict fund balances that can be used for long-term investments. So when I asked you to kind of clarify what you wanted to do, it wasn't very clear to me. I believe that the purpose is we want to make sure our public knows what we're doing. Just putting an account number on there, to me, isn't clear to them about what the intention was to restrict it. Was it to take the restriction off? Was it to put a restriction on? Was it to change the restriction? It was unclear. And then I asked you to clarify, but you didn't respond. Correct?
I didn't respond to you. I sent an email to Jeff and Denise.
Okay, but I draft the agenda, we consult together, and we finish the agenda. So I just asked you to clarify it so I could understand it was,
I didn't see
Worded.
anything need to be clarified. I pretty much spelled out exactly what I wanted to do, because I said in there that I wanted to look at freezing the funds,
I read it,
possibly.
but you said.
But you
that
can't
wanted
do
to-
that.
You wanted to take action on an account number.
So we, at no point are we legally allowed to reduce
You
our
can by an
budgets.
ordinance. You
I
can by an
understand that,
ordinance.
but that's why I wanted it on the
Well, and
agenda,
that's what
so
I'm
we could
saying.
discuss
So we're,
it.
You can discuss it, you
I
just
don't
can't
know
take
what
action
happened.
without
I can,
clarity.
I
But the
can't
thing
recall.
is if we come to a consensus, the 8 of us, during the discussion, that discussion that could then become an ordinance. But we
Yeah.
can't have the discussion unless it's on the agenda.
No, that's not true. You can have a discussion about anything you want, especially in committee meetings. You just cannot take formal action. And except for at a special meeting, I apologize. A special meeting, you cannot talk about anything except for those items listed on the agenda. And what Fred just brought up reminds me of the first thing that I skipped in my report. What I would like to see, if the council is willing, to change our order of business to include some other things. One of them being items for consideration. So where items that are being decided on, they come to council. Now, not every single thing the council approves on, but bringing them to the council, getting a consensus of where the council feels, that is one of the things that some of our municipalities do, is, hey, like, Jeff, hey, I'm gonna hire so-and-so in a not restricted situation, in a normal situation, or anything like that. I want to bring that to the council's attention. Anyone have any thoughts about that? Now, technically, Jeff is in charge of his department, and he makes the hiring, firing decisions. And if you don't like that, then I guess you would punish Jeff. But, so that is one thing. And then the other thing is just, technically, in our code, it doesn't have a place for old business. And then there was also one other thing, but
I think it was the provision of having items underneath each council member,
Yes.
is that right?
yes. And that in general, and you guys can do what you want, but what it is for the reports would be more specifically like reporting on your liaison activities.
Why are you making these suggestions?
To hopefully get everyone to work together better.
Well, that would work if we had legal opinion from you on things, rather than you asked the other day, and you asked, what did I mean by policy making? These are the kinds of things that I said that I felt like our city attorney is doing right now, is trying to make policy, whether it be what we're gonna do with the water bills. Some of these are suggestions, I get that. But all I'm hearing right now is limiting what we would be allowed to discuss. Right now, it's wide open under each alderman, under their report, to bring up and discuss whatever they would like to, which is great. What I'm hearing right now, though, is that you're saying it would only be maybe what they're assigned to.
No,
or-
that's my hope is that there is at least something mentioned on those topics. And then I would also like to add committee reports so that there be a report from the various committees provided.
Well, I think we only have a few committees, and most people would just be liaisons to whichever committee. And hopefully the liaisons are sharing with the rest of the council and the mayor and staff what's going on in the different departments. And thus far, I would say the aldermen that I've spoke to have been sharing information as far as what's going on and been informative about certain things. So I guess I don't understand what the changes are because, again, as I said before, I've been here a long time and there's been changes to our agenda and things like this. And I think one of the comments you had said was, doing it the proper way. I don't understand how we're not doing it the proper way. We've always had a city attorney. We've had a city attorney from your office for at least 6 years prior to you, and there weren't issues with the agenda, or if there was, they addressed it the same way that you're starting to come in on a Friday now to discuss things with them. That's what our city attorney did before, every Friday to discuss with the city clerk and the mayor at the time and the city engineer at the time, just to be prepared for the meeting on Monday and see if there's anything that they needed to follow up on prior to Monday. I know that was way back when we were really, really, really busy and we met every single Monday. Now we meet every other Monday, so there's more time to get all the information out and discuss things. But again, I'm just looking on ways for us to get more information, but still being able to discuss things amongst ourselves rather than being told what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it, because that's the way it comes across.
So I guess there's two things. So one of them is the items for consideration, right? The things that don't technically require council approval, but creates transparency, and you guys aren't finding out about it after the fact. The other thing is, so we don't have anything in our code about how items are on the agenda and things like that. We have adopted Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order say that the presiding officer is the one that sets the agenda. So where we're at right now, the mayor sets the agenda. I didn't understand, I believe, and I still believe, based on what everyone's saying, that an ordinance is required. I don't recall the whole conversation. I think that because the water operator is on here, the subjects that Adam wants to discuss are covered here. But the action that it sounds like wants to be taken to not allow those funds to be spent requires an ordinance. And so that it was trying to clean it up, because what was said was discussion on line item, whatever for personnel, line item whatever for contractual services to freeze or hold on spending. That was pretty vague, and I didn't want it on there for approval because I didn't, and I still do not think that that can be approved without an ordinance. So,
Here's my concern. Here's all the things that could have been under what you asked me for. Audit, Julie services, contractual services, liability insurance, computer operations and service, rental lease agreements, legal notices and advertising, vehicle and equipment, testing including postage, maintenance of buildings and water lines. So all I asked was, could you just identify what you wanted to vote on so we could understand what that is? I do research, I look things up. Personnel, we have a collective bargaining agreement that covers the employees under that particular line item. Now, some of them might be under the same pay area, but we can't restrict paying someone under the collective bargaining agreement. So I asked you to clarify for that reason so I could understand what your intent was, how to word it better. And again, we have a responsibility to the public, so they understand what it is we're voting on. That's part of OMA.
The water superintendent, he's union?
Superintendent is not,
That's what I
but the
thought.
other employee under that line item is.
well, and that's the thing is, I mean, I think the idea was with regard to this, I don't know, with this specific position. So it should have said, I think the easiest thing would be like discussion on that. But the truth of the matter is the various department heads, the mayor makes the appointments, you guys consent and approve or disapprove of those. And that's where the consideration thing would be a good idea, right? Because he or whoever can say, I want to hire, I want to do this, and get feedback, rather than someone doing it and then the council being upset that it has happened.
So if we have a water main break, and it is beyond our expertise now because our most experienced person is retired, that ties my hands. I don't think that's the intention of council. I also have an obligation to keep that plant running and the water to be safe and drinkable and quality of life for our employees. I don't want that to diminish either. As a matter of fact, it can't because I'm required to keep that plant open. So I wanted to understand what your intentions were with trying to restrict something. I gave you lots of examples of things that you can restrict. And just like.
All right, I got a question here.
Just as we create, I'll give you the floor in a minute.
Okay.
Just as we create appropriation ordinances, you could have done something in reverse to change the budget. You can amend it through a different process, but it requires a document. Alderman Chun,
When did you find out local was retiring?
what did I find out?
Yes.
Well, they actually told me when I became mayor 5 years ago, but he didn't retire.
Okay, but he gave you warning of when he was gonna retire, correct?
And the administrator, yes.
Okay. Why didn't we start looking for that person then? Why wasn't it posted then? Now we're without somebody, like you say, and you're
60,
trying to shove other people down us right now.
I'm not shoving anything. I'm giving you options. But
The
ultimately. we have
option
to-
was to post the job when we knew he was retiring.
60 days before he retired is when he gave the announcement that he retired.
All right, so 60 days ago, we would have been able to post this.
We have posted the job.
Okay.
It's a difficult license to have. Not everybody has one.
And we have no one in-house that could have got that license.
Isn't Brad just one, doesn't he just need to
No.
go take the test?
No, it's more than that. He has
We-
to have hours of on-the-job training to take that test and
We-
get that license.
We did have somebody that had equivalent license that applied for waste operator position 4 years ago. So it would have been 2 water department employees ago. But we chose not to offer that person a job. We decided to go in-house with somebody who had no water experience, and they were the new water person. And then they left to go somewhere else, and then we got a new one. So if there would have been more people involved, or maybe somebody other than that particular superintendent to be involved in the hiring process of people for these positions, we could have actually had somebody that was already on staff that was equally qualified license-wise to step into that position. And I think we need to keep that kind of stuff in mind in the future rather than always thinking that we do have somebody inside. It's always nice to promote from within, but sometimes you can't and sometimes you need that. I'm not too concerned if we have a water break, as we've hired somebody out to handle several of our water breaks within the past year. So I think we're still gonna be just fine.
And we did have a part-time employee that had the A water license, but did not renew their license. And I just found out about it and didn't realize that that individual did not renew their license. So that's where we're at. We have had applicants. We'll go through those and hopefully we'll find someone that we can hire.
A full-time hire, not no part-time. A full-time.
For the
water
full-time,
super-
yeah, for the position, it would be a full-time. I have no intentions of hiring a part-time person back. This other person is already a part-time employee. They help us out. They're retired, they do part-time work for us. They're the ones that had their license lapse. I did not realize that. Or they could have signed off on our plan for us.
Okay, just to make it clear, we're gonna go out and advertise for a full-time water
We already did,
superintendent.
yes.
Water superintendent?
Where are we advertising this at?
It is on our website and the American Water Works.
Yeah, it's on the Illinois chapter of the American Water Works Association. I included a copy of it in my report.
It's their professional organization.
I couldn't print it out, and I had somebody else send it to me too, or even pull it up, and I had somebody else try to send it to me.
Okay.
I mean, it's on my computer, I couldn't open it.
Okay,
And I had Jay earlier try to send it to me, and I couldn't,
happy to get it
not
for you.
sure why, so.
It's not the first time. When I became mayor, we had someone that we hired, right, Rich, to sign off on our wastewater plant because we had
Yeah.
no one qualified. It's not new for us. It's happened for the wastewater. When I've been the mayor, so it's just something that we go through. It's not a typical license or very difficult to get. so.
We've done it at least 2, maybe 3 different occasions for a period of
Yeah,
time.
we've always contracted with someone to sign for us because we're required to by law.
But the position we're advertising for, I might have gotten cut off there.
It's an assistant
Assistant
water
superintendent.
superintendent. Assistant.
It's not a water superintendent?
It's assistant water superintendent.
Don't we,
No, I just asked the question. This is gonna be not an assistant. This is gonna be a full-time water superintendent, replacing the guy that just retired.
It's a full-time position.
Then why does it say
As
assistant?
a water,
Who is the
not
assistant?
assistant, a full, just like our other.
It's assistant. I don't think we need a superintendent employee and a superintendent employee. Seems a little top-heavy.
we've had that for years, though.
We also have had different things. We've had one person over both those departments.
We
Isn't that
have-
true, Rich? You've been around as long as I have.
Yeah, when we've been in a bind, we have. And sometimes it's worked good, other times it's not worked so good. So, I don't know.
Well,
I mean, we have a street superintendent and we have a sewer superintendent. So now we need a water superintendent to replace the guy that just retired. It's a full-time job.
And we have one person that's 50/50 water and sewer, correct?
yes, we do. Yep, the sewer department has 2 employees, used to have 1.
I mean, I was gonna talk about more under Brad Eady later on about this, but as far as I'm concerned, I've already explained to most everybody up here. I mean, when it comes down to that vote, mine will be no, and the reason being is, for 24 years, we had a water superintendent. We have a sanitary superintendent. We have a sanitary superintendent that is doing a spectacular job with his department,
He hasn't been the superintendent for 24 years.
the water superintendent.
I don't, he wasn't hired as the superintendent.
Who?
Brian.
No, we had a water superintendent at the time, though.
Right, and other times we've had a superintendent over both.
But regardless, it comes down to, we have a sanitary superintendent that is doing a spectacular job being proactive about his department. He's going out looking to get things relined, lift stations rebuilt. We're gonna take that superintendent, and we're gonna take him out of his department. We're gonna put him into a department that we all know isn't running the greatest.
I didn't say I was taking him out of his department.
Well, when you take him
He
and you
has
put him over the top of it,
Oversight.
then you take his attention away from the department he's running. You take part of that attention, you put it on a new department, so.
But that's why he
it's-
has an extra body over there, so he could do those things. That's why we hired the extra person at the sewer plant, so he could get out of there and do other things. He also needs to upgrade his water license. The only way he can do that is to get out of the sewer plant.
All I'm saying is, my personal opinion is we're setting our employees up to fail. Because we take him, he's doing a good job where he's at. Then we're gonna spread him thin and throw him over 2 places. And I think if we, personally, it's my own opinion, if we don't set our employees up to succeed, as a city of Sandwich, we're gonna get 50% effort here and 50% effort here. And I don't think that's fair to the people of Sandwich to do that.
And from what I've seen, we need 100% attention to our water
The
department.
water department needs 100%, without a
100%,
doubt.
not no 50-50, in my opinion.
Mine as well.
When we hire this person, this water department will have the same staffing that it had up until Friday. No different. Yes, Fred.
I think one of the takeaways that we need to kind of maybe focus on here a little bit is our work that EEI is doing on the backside, right? So they've actually formulated the game plan for our improvements and all that sort of thing. So they're doing a lot of that heavy lifting that we would typically have put on Brian back in the day and Brad in the future. I mean, there's gonna be organization that's gonna have to take place. The assistant's position, in my opinion, and I'm kind of just hearing all this and I've read everything. I think it'll work. I mean, I think what we need to do is we need to try something, right? We need to try something and see how it goes. It does not mean that whomever gets put in as the assistant superintendent doesn't end up being the full-time superintendent, potentially eventually. But doing the same thing over and over again and having Brad's oversight with the sanitary side has been fantastic. If we can spread that over into the water side, have that oversight, train the other people, get them up to speed, I think we'll be in a better position. And once again, like I said, everything that we have as far as our capital improvement that EEI already has established and put out there, those are already in motion. They're already happening. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, we're under council reports. Thank you, Fred. Alderman Barnett, anything else to add?
I'm done.
Okay, Alderman Chun?
Yeah, streets have been out, crack filling, and they're about 50% done with that. They also been out striping. I think they believe they got downtown done. They're about 25% done with that. They'll be wrapping up by the end of June with that. Something that's been going on since like September, October-ish, when Mr. Arnett was the liaison over at Streets, was the building getting fixed. Apparently, it still hasn't been fixed. Bids were not gone out for it. So we need to rectify that and get it done. It's been almost 10 months. 10 months. And now it's probably gonna cost more. It's probably falling apart more. And once again, the city of Sandwich ain't doing nothing to keep up with their buildings.
Well, that's on me. I didn't get it done. I didn't get it out to Tuck Point to bid, and, you know, I've been focused on other things, like the Johnson House and these other things. So every one of these projects takes time, unfortunately, to get the bid specs together, to get them out to bid and to do this. Unfortunately, I'm pulled in 20 directions. So if there's somebody else who wants to handle that, I'm more than happy to give it up. But it's certainly an item that is on my list and needs to get done this summer. But it's, yes, it's drugged out, and if you want to point a finger at somebody, point it at me.
I'm not trying to point fingers, I'm just saying it just needs to get done. I mean, 10 months is an awful long time.
I got 100 things that need to get done.
I get it.
And I know you only asked
the
for
job that
10.
you
My
took,
problem
so
is
that's
trying
not
to
my
get it
fault.
down to 10.
All right, anything else, Alderman Chun?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Erickson?
What about Danko? You skipped.
Go to Skip.
Don?
It's farther
Well,
down
you
in
can
my,
go. It doesn't matter. I'm sitting here. I ain't going anywhere.
Go ahead. Well, no,
it's farther down in my copy.
Oh.
because there's about.
Okay.
I think there were two.
Because there was the one
Danko.
Denise put out, and then I had to put everything back in on Friday night and send it out to you guys, so I apologize. The official one and the one that was posted is the one Denise has, and that is up here.
All right, Alderman Danko, employee/personnel.
Me?
Yes.
Do you want to give what we found with the water
You go
and the
ahead.
correction?
You go ahead.
Okay. So, when this whole thing came up with, since I was newly assigned to this position, I started looking around. And we currently have 4 hydrants out of service. One, the one at Wright Court is scheduled to be replaced on June 25th. It's taking one of our spares and getting that done. It's a travesty that it took this long, to be quite honest. 3 years, that cul-de-sac did not have a fire hydrant. That, to me, was unacceptable.
At the airport,
Yes.
at the
Right
airport. No hydrant at
I
the
don't know anything
airport.
about it. Nor did anybody call me, Alderman Danko, did you? This is the first time.
Why don't
I'm
we
hearing
ask
about
our
any of
water
this.
superintendent that just retired?
Could be.
Yeah.
Also, the streets test those hydrants. They
Union
flush.
We also have one, and it's on Lyons Road. It's currently out of service. It is bagged. There's no little sign on it. That needs replacement too. Luckily, it's in an area where we have another hydrant 300 feet away. I mean, poor fire department have to run 100-yard hose out, but we're okay. The other ones are Star 34 in Davis. It needs a full replacement. The head is cracked, and it's difficult to turn off. It's not that it's not working, but once you open it, I don't know if they're gonna get it shut off. So that is under review. And Crowfoot and Suzanne needs a full repairment. 2 of the old ports do not shut down completely. So that's where we're at right now. So just to let you know what's going on there.
Have those been turned in anybody? Have those been turned in any of the department heads?
Yeah, Brad's aware of it. He's the one who wrote that up, so.
Yes, I'm going off of
Working towards
Brad's
it.
report, which I passed to you, and
You did.
you could have included it on yours, but I'll just do
No,
it.
it's fine. I think you did just fine.
Can,
And I heard back from Brad this afternoon that the first one we do have scheduled, I think, later in the month.
Can we just make sure that the fire department's aware of all the non-working hydrants? Okay. Okay.
They don't, they know? Okay.
Did they know when you talked to him or no? Did they know when you talked to him? But they knew already? Okay, thank you.
Alderman Danko, you had employee and personnel. Was there anything else?
Right, this is that discussion on the full-time superintendent that I want to talk about. We already started talking about, I don't know if we have to go into executive session or we can just keep going. But I do not like the idea of pulling Brad from doing a fabulous job and pulling him away, and now he's split. What's going on? With the water, we need a full-time person there that concentrates nothing but on water, period. So, and we have well, what the hell, we're already doing this. From the main pump station to well, that line, 12 patches. That should have been addressed 20 years ago, but now it's on us to do something about that. So, and I invite my council members here to go look at our current pump house next to the fire department, the old fire department. So,
what we're
my
taking
plan
down
is,
for work.
we have to have a plan. We have to make a plan, we're gonna plan the work, and we have to work the plan. And it's gonna take all of us to get this going. Because it's been, that can, I see, has been kicked down the road way too long. Now it's on our doorstep, and we cannot kick this down the road any further, in my opinion.
So that was a well that we applied for the loan for that we did not receive.
I'm sorry?
That was the well that we applied for the loan for that we did not receive.
I think we can't wait for that loan. We're gonna have to make some other decisions, even if we have to go out and issue a bond for that repair.
It might be an option.
I think it's got to that point. We can't budget for this. It's too vast. So,
Okay, anything else?
yeah, that's what I have right now.
Alderwoman Erickson, Budget Committee members, and meal reimbursement.
I got a couple questions before that, about the agendas that we were talking about. When did we come up with the agenda due date was Wednesday?
I just asked if you could have it in earlier. That's a request that our city administrators has. They had time to prepare.
Is
There
that
wasn't a
gonna-
deadline. I just asked if you could have them in by Wednesday.
Is that an ongoing thing?
I
Is that
think-
gonna be an ongoing thing?
That's his request. I can't always
I'd
meet it
like
myself.
to. I was here till 11 o'clock on Friday putting this together. I'd really like to be able to go home at 5 o'clock like the rest of the world.
I get that, I get
I mean,
that.
quite honestly,
But if we're gonna do that, then everybody's gotta abide by it
I totally agree with you.
and not turn it in on Thursday.
No, I agree.
You turned yours in on Thursday. You told us to have it on Wednesday, and you turned yours in on Thursday, so.
Yeah, we traditionally seem like we get things done on Friday. It doesn't leave us enough time to pull all the information. And that goes years back and get legal advice or whatever we need.
The other question is I had on for the committee of the whole, you can see my email. I wanted executive, and it was taken off and put it on regular. Could you explain why that was?
Probably because we can't take action or committee of the whole.
Didn't want action.
Because I
really,
think
but
underneath it, it says possible action required.
Possible. But, okay.
I didn't set the closed session.
All right, so for the budget committee members, I would like it to go from just Fred and I. I would either like it to be the whole council like it used to be, or at least all the finance committee. Does anybody have any?
So there wasn't a budget committee when I became mayor. There was a special meeting that took place. So it's just not you and Fred, it's you, Fred, and the city administrator and the budget committee.
Right.
It's three of you.
Right, but it's still, we get into the same kind of thing almost, that we can't really talk, we can't really do anything.
I guess I'd like to ask Fred's opinion since he chairs that. Because the committees in the code book says a slash. That means we can have a finance and a budget or a finance or budget.
I mean, I'm fine with whatever direction we want to go. I think the more participation that we have as a committee, the better off we are. There's less room for misinterpretation, people only hearing little snippets or hearsay. Full participation of the council is always welcomed. I mean, that's been something that I've been trying to gain from the get-go with all the meetings in prior years. I know that there's thoughts that you can't have that participation in that. It needs to be a special meeting. I say we open it up and it's part of the, the open format where we open up to the public and they can speak. So if you can think of a better way to make it happen, I'm all for it. Like I said, more participation is better.
Yeah, I kind of see those as checks and balances, right? One committee sets the budget that we try to follow. The other one makes sure that we're following it. That's the way I see the two roles.
I just think there need to be more people than just 2 council members. I think we need more. And anybody else have an opinion on that? I mean, or would anybody else be interested in being on that if we did it, or?
If we did it, I'd be interested for sure.
I'll try to keep them separate. And the reason I have the committee, the same people is,
Well, Jay just said yes, so, and he
I
said
Said
yes.
yes, and I'm not on it.
I would not,
The one.
because I'm hoping only to be on finance for a short period of time. But I was also going to say that I still think it's a great idea, because unintentionally, when there's only 2 of you and the administrator on the committee, anytime that Fred and Karsta talk about budget, and it's not at a meeting, it's a
Exactly.
Open Meetings Act violation. So,
Yeah, good thing we didn't talk, huh?
yeah.
okay, anything else?
So we need one more, right? So
No,
we
the
need
3 of
open-
you,
There's
4,
only-
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, oh, and 5, okay. Never mind, I'm sorry.
Amazing.
And then the last thing I have on here is the meal reimbursement that we started to talk about in the finance committee, and some of you weren't here for that. So I just really want everybody's, I guess, input on that, on the meal reimbursements for the city employees and the police and everybody, because I am tired of the back and forth. I really am with the finance. Every meeting we get, I have to send it to Chief. Chief sends it back to me saying, well, this is what I told Todd. Todd told me this. Jeff sends me this. Nothing corresponds together. It's just, we need to come up with some kind of format and do it. So we kind of talked about it in finance today, that we were sending the bill back, and until Senny brings it back to us as signed, that it's the way that it is in the policy book, or the, what is that called?
Well, there's 3 things. There's the policy, and then there's 2 collective bargaining
Right, but both of
agreements.
Both of those agreements technically say the same thing.
One just has a cap, one's, the personnel policy is specific on the meal type. The collective bargaining agreements just have a cap of 45 per day, which is what the chief reported back to me in our conversations.
So that's what we need to do. We need to figure it out. I mean, what are we gonna go with? Are we gonna just go with the 45? Are we gonna, be it's the 10, 15, 20, is it, or 25? I don't. Is it 10, 15, 20?
10, 15,
I thought we were gonna start following the personnel policy exactly as it's written for the city of Sandwich.
but then it doesn't follow the collective bargaining agreement.
Well, I would suggest that we do this when we're in
Yeah.
the executive session, because ultimately it's going to take, that's where original discussion started. It needs to finish in there, and
We'll add that to my
I think
personnel
we're all
stuff
going to
then.
agree in there again.
Under personnel?
I think that, and again, we can go into executive session, we can't take action. I'm gonna request that we go into executive session also under. In the next one, we can do it all together, but it'll be C2. I think that's where we need to discuss collective bargaining. Yes. If there's, yes, but I just, yes.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Alderman Inman,
Nothing tonight.
Alderman Ketchum,
Nothing tonight.
Alderman Cranebrink.
Well, I know we've done a lot of talking this evening, and some of the stuff makes sense, some of the stuff doesn't. I think there's a lot, we have a lot of new council members here. There's a lot of moving parts within the city right now with what we're doing with our infrastructure, our sewer, our water, our streets. To talk about the water pump house, that's been something that's been on the docket ever since I've been on. It was one of the driving forces of the police department needing to be built and go into the facility where it's at currently, because the old building was going to have to be knocked down so that the water facility could be expanded. That's since not needing to be happening. So that was like something that I felt like we strung the public along possibly for that. I would encourage each and every one of you to get just a little bit more engaged with the different departments and get a little bit more information, and ask some more questions. Because there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts that have gone into this. Talking about the superintendents, just the hierarchy, the structure and everything like that. I understand that change is difficult, but change might be good in this case, and it could be a potential cost savings for us. So that's just my 2 cents on that, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Alderman Robinson?
First, I'll start with the late water bills. Since it was first brought up a month ago, we just had a little bit more discussion tonight about it. Just to recap, originally I was talking about residential only. I was suggesting either 10% or $20, whichever is greater. Also talked about the one-time forgiveness, graduated scale, talked about software issues. Also, monthly versus quarterly billing, which would cost the city more money. And then the fact that it's an actual late fee and not previous balance, which is what the bills state. Based off of that and the conversation that our software wouldn't be able to handle it, and then with the clerk's recommendation, she would rather go with just a solid amount. The fact that we were $10 before, and we thought that was too cheap, that people would just be late all the time and keep paying an additional $10, which they probably would. I would suggest that we go ahead and change it just to the $20 then, and hopefully someone with a low water bill doesn't have it, doesn't, but with it being a quarterly thing, I think 20 bucks. If you're late, if you miss it, 20 bucks, that's a pretty low penalty rather than the 20% that we were doing before, which really affected some people. I still think with the people that have already approached us and called about late fees, especially the ones last fall when they had the second meter or whatever, or maybe they didn't, I can't remember what the case was, and they were using a lot of water, and then they paid it late. I think it was like 14 days late or something like that, and I want to say it was like $150, $200 late charge, something like that, on their water bill. So Anyway, just to have something rather than pushing the can down the road, I would suggest that we have something in paper form, whether it be a resolution or ordinance or whatever, to change it to the $20 fee rather than the 20% fee. And this is for residential. As far as commercial, if that stays at the 20, I don't know. If anybody else has an opinion on that, or if they want both to be the $20, but commercial uses a lot of water, so I don't know.
I guess I would like kind of some consensus from the council, but we can't our software doesn't allow us to treat anyone differently, right?
Correct, that's my
So
understanding.
we can't differentiate between commercial and residential, so I guess,
I think that would be easy enough to do in the office. You gotta give me a break here somewhere, people, okay? If you're talking residential or commercial, I mean, it's in the name of the business or it's in the name
I
of
mean,
the,
I think that's up to
Okay,
Denise.
the way the system works, we print off the bills and Lisa goes through each individual bill and actually pulls out ones that we've been notified, for example, that the people are moving. She is tied up at that front counter, answering phones, taking care of permits, greeting customers, taking in payments, and sorting individual bills. For whatever reason, I don't want to see it any more complicated. We do not have the time to do this.
then do it $20 for everybody. I don't care, and if people are complaining later because commercial is, it's easy for them to be late because it's only 20 bucks, fine. And maybe we need to look at the rest of the process that we do as far as taking the time to send them the late notice and then sending them at the same time that they're gonna have a shut off because of whatever, so I will go back and say $20 for everybody. Make it simple, make it easy. My point from the very beginning was I did not want to create more work for the office. I know how busy you guys are there.
I know you do,
I've been there,
Rich.
so I don't
I
want you guys busier.
understand that, but we're falling further and further behind. I'm falling further behind. It's evident. I can't even get my minutes done. But I think $20 is an insult.
This is the new software, right? That
We don't have the new software until, that's not coming until after August.
We're looking to
Okay, so
implement
we-
something to
Later
get
this
us.
fall, most likely.
And will that one be able to do?
We hope so. But we don't know. That's the problem. We don't know. And that's the problem with all of this stuff is that, yes, we want to move on this stuff, but I can't
any way
give
to-
you guys answers.
But I don't want to sit and wait, so I'm trying to be accommodating too, because you said a flat fee would be better. So go back to the 10% then, have it be simple. Someone's got to figure out the 10%. But
Well, is there a way that we can get a hold of this software company and find out that that we're gonna get in August? Can't we just get a hold of them and find out if we can do this? I mean, before we,
we'll be talking about this again next year, and we won't have. This is how city government works.
We have checked with our current software. We cannot do what you are
I'm
asking.
talking about the one we're supposed to get in August that he said.
Implementation starts in August.
In
I don't
August,
know
okay,
how
well,
long it's
either
gonna
way,
take to
like-
get it implemented.
But
We're
if we-
getting general information from them,
General.
unfortunately. It's not, we finally have a contact, so I can try and reach out to that person and find out what we can do.
Maybe as a council, we should look at that, the new water meters, and it gets all, goes through ComEd's network, and it automates a lot of this billing. And it gives the residents a portal to check on their water usage themselves. Maybe it's time to take it up to the 22nd century. We got a presentation on it, and we didn't talk about it anymore. I'm just bringing it up. Maybe we should rethink this if we're gonna revamp. This could be a time saving. We could almost justify amount of time being spent and streamline this.
So we do the $20 insult.
Is your microphone on?
So we do the $20 insult fee until we jump on a program like that. And then we have software that could then be usable
Right.
and easy for everybody, and then we come up with even a better idea.
And I think it might relieve some of the water department duties going out and reading 1,000 meters or whatever they have to manually do.
Well, and we talked about, we like the idea that people could see it monthly what their bill is. So if they want to pay their bill monthly, rather than waiting till the quarterly, they could.
Yeah. So maybe we should relook at that technology.
Yeah, that's been something that I've been a proponent of for a long time.
I think it's a great idea.
Yep.
You just haven't budgeted for it. So we'd have to figure out how to find the funds, and I think it's good because you have an older part of town that they'd benefit from, especially with the leak detection.
I agree with Rich's comments that we need to change it somehow. I would just encourage staff to come to a consensus of what the dollars and cents are, of what it costs to process, do all the work and that sort of thing. I mean, that's how we got to that 20%. That is how we got to that number. Because when you ran all the costs and everything, the ROI to just break even was that 20%.
And
So, I mean, that's why we're there. Unfortunately, it costs money to stop what you're doing, run the reports, file it all, mail it all, ship it out, get the phone calls that are complaining, deal with it, and then have them pay it.
It is the most inefficient process I've ever seen in my life. And that's our problem. To Don's point, yeah, we got to look at our entire utility system. We got to figure out how we're going to get these things read, how we're going to get them billed. We need to be on monthly billing just as a courtesy to our residents. I think that's a customer service thing that we have to do. It's just entirely too hard for people to budget on a 3-month basis. And then when you have a leak, it just is, it's extensive. We get the calls all day long and people are unhappy about it. The thing of it is that we have to upgrade our system. We have to do this stuff. And if we don't, we're gonna lose the utility. I mean, that's the thing, is this stuff has been kicked off so long that it's not gonna make it. If we go another 5 years like we've gone, I don't know that it's gonna be here. So we have to get our act together. We have, as Don says, we gotta get a plan and we gotta work the plan. You know, I agree, yes, 20% is a lot, I'm sorry, but pay your bill on time. That's the only purpose of this. We're not trying to get people, we're not gonna pave streets with a 20% late fee, okay? We're not gonna replace the laterals that we need to replace. It's just not gonna happen. The problem is that we have to fix our system. We have to fix how we provide this service and be able to do it in a good way. And I think that is where we need to focus our time. If we want to make it $20 for now, who cares? But 20%, to Fred's point, is pretty close to what we came up with as far as our cost to do this. It is unbelievable how much time goes into this. You know, it's no wonder we have other things that are falling apart too, because we spend all of our time on utilities. We need to staff our utilities first and make sure those are revenue funds. We got to make sure that we're paying the staff there to take care of those areas so that they work properly. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to fall behind. I mean, we've had the utilities lean on the city, and then we wonder why we can't pave streets. We need it the other way. We need the utilities to be strong so that we can do what we need to do as a city.
So those of you that knew the city years ago bought the cheapest software, there's only one other municipality in Illinois that has the same software. You get what you pay for.
So essentially, when the water rates were raised, the water rates were essentially just about doubled.
Correct.
So water rates being doubled, lowering it to 10% would should be bringing it even Steven for the ROI.
Like I said, Adam, it's not really about this isn't meant to be a revenue generator. This is so that people will pay their bill. That's really the only purpose, is to try to give an incentive for people to pay the bill, because we had from what I understand, we had aldermen in the past who, for months, years, didn't pay their $10. They just didn't do it. And that's, we can't have that. We've got to be able to collect it. I mean, the time Denise spends trying to collect stuff is just, it's ridiculous. And it cuts into the time then that she has to do the minutes. That's why we're approving stuff from March 29th. It's July 16th. And that's not a dig at her by any means. It's just, there is a lot of stuff going on in that office, and people don't understand it and don't respect what is happening in that office.
So council is going to consensus before we'll write an ordinance.
And I guess I do want to just say that the way the ordinance is written now is that there is a penalty of 20% of the outstanding balance is added there too. So it's actually considered a part of the next balance, and then it's considered a part of the next balance, and considered a part of the next balance. And so really, the way it's worded now, and I don't know how the software works, but it's, if there is a 20% penalty added to a bill of $100, that would be $120. And then the next bill is gonna be probably the $20 if it wasn't, if it wasn't paid, plus the $100 for the next bill. So then it's $120, and then if that's not paid on time, it would be 20% of $120. So that's how it's written now. I just want everyone to know. So I guess I need to know if you want that changed, that has to be reworded. And then I need to know what percentage. So it sounds like we're not doing the minimum of $20, or are we doing that?
No, it's just the
No,
20%.
we're just doing 20%. So we need to take out the minimum because we don't have the ability to do that. And then just do whatever percent. And I guess I just need a consensus from the council what they want that ordinance to say for the percentage. And I guess if there is going to be any action about the penalties, are you gonna give refunds? I don't know what your plan is, but there should probably be some sort of formal action with regard to that.
And no elected official can have debt to the city. That's a compiled statute. All right, so what do you want to do? Flat fee percent.
Well, Denise, you said that flat fee would be easier, so pick your poison. You want the flat fee that is the insult, or do you want the,
I personally
Percent.
favor a flat fee of $35 a bill.
I wouldn't suggest 35, just so you know.
That's what your credit cards charge.
Your
If
your
y-
hourly rate in the office, $25 an hour, 33% benefits, you need to have it higher than that because it's taking more than an hour to do the work. I say just leave it at the 20% until we get the software finished and take it from there. We're wasting way too much time on this.
You would think, but we've been discussing it.
Yeah,
So
and nobody
when
can
are-
make a
when-
decision.
When are we gonna make a decision?
I asked to run the numbers to see what it came in, so you can make a factual decision. We're trying to take a straw poll right now, and you don't even know what it costs to run the business.
Yeah.
So I
Would
think
you
I'm the
open a
only
ber
one-
and you didn't know what you were gonna pay your bartender? No, you'd figure out what you're gonna make.
No, but when
and
I
you'd
brought
set your
this up a
rates.
month ago, and we said we were gonna get stuff together, we ought to have it then to discuss it. And like I said before, this is how city business moves.
It's not how city
Ver-
business
It
works.
is very slow.
It's how
Okay,
Sandwich does
all right,
business.
Very
stop.
slow.
I have the floor
How'd you get the floor?
because I'm the mayor and I took it back. Everybody's had their chance to say about this.
I'm not done with my
We were
time,
supposed
just
to,
so you know.
we were supposed to have a proposal and we didn't get it. I wrote a proposal to staff, staff rejected it. That's where we're at.
Why
Only
didn't-
one that wrote a proposal is about changing the water costs for late fees. You were gonna make a proposal, but you didn't put anything out there. I
No,
did.
because
and
I
the
did all
staff-
verbal. I didn't need to put it on paper, did I?
Well, I see Alderman Fritsch in the back.
I gave all
He's been asking you for
suggestions.
months himself to bring something in writing. I
I-
brought something in writing to the staff. It doesn't work, so we need to decide or we just leave it alone.
Well, I
We're only
didn't,
talking about a small percentage of our population that doesn't pay their bill on time.
I didn't know that you'd present anything to staff, so maybe the people that brought it up.
I did, it's in his report.
It's what?
It's in the administrator report.
I don't have that.
Okay, Rich, what else you got? I don't think we're gonna get anywhere in water tonight.
We're not doing anything with water then?
I
Everyone's
don't
fine?
know, only about 3 people said something, so. I assume we either wanna think on it or leave it the way it is.
All right. Agenda was popular topic tonight, so I'm curious if somebody wanted to put something on the agenda and they wanted action on it, and they were specific about it enough that there could be action, when is the last opportune time that somebody could get something on the city agenda?
Clerk and the administrator posted at 5 o'clock on Friday, right?
Friday was not a good day for us. I was there till 7, trying to get agendas out. Your city administrator was there later. I do not like waiting till Friday and trying to piece everything together. We, at one point, had a cutoff, I think like noon on Thursday. Even that would work, trying to accommodate. We can't have all this going on Friday. I call it chaotic Friday, and it hasn't disappointed me every Friday. So,
And I get it, and like I said, there were some things, but if there's something, and whether it be because somebody didn't read an email or a text message, and they wanted something on the agenda though, we have put it on as late as a Saturday in the past. We've amended agendas before on things that we need to act on or to decide. So I'm just curious
yes.
when the drop dead date was. If it's 5 o'clock on a Friday and that's it, I'm good with that. But I never ever want to see someone else putting something on a Saturday or Saturday morning or whatever. Because then it's a matter of, oh, I can do it because,
as Cassandra said, until I'm told different, the mayor sets the agenda. So if it's to be changed on a Saturday, and I have come in on Saturdays in the past, amended, I need direction from the mayor to do that.
and just to clarify, that's not by code or anything, that's by Robert's Rules of Order, correct?
It's a combination, I guess. I mean, that is the general practice. I think most clerks would tell you that's how it works. And if we wanted to change that, we could put something in our ordinances.
Just asking a question, so I'm aware of where it's coming from.
But we could certainly, I mean, there are ways to change that, and there are municipalities that have changed that.
Nope, I like to have answers to the questions, so that's all I was looking for.
Remember, we canceled our work on Saturdays in our office. We closed the office on Friday, correct? So,
I mean,
Might have
maybe
been
we
different
put
when there were
together a
other people there.
form. I mean, if that's what you guys want, I mean, if a form, we just need enough information to put it on there. That's the big thing, is that,
But it was a yellow notepad in the back. It was a yellow legal
Okay.
pad, and that sat there in the office forever. And it had a couple of weeks on it, because you had the cow meeting, and then you had the regular meeting.
okay.
And so the alderman could come in and write whatever down on it, and that was how they did in the past. I know it's old school. I'm not saying it needs to go back to you, but when you say a form or whatever,
Well, that's fine. I think the big thing is what's the topic, what's the background, what needs to be decided, and then is there a recommendation? I mean, that's what I try to give you guys, but, you know, I don't always have the time to do that research. So if somebody wants to do that research, I think that's fine. It's just we need to have the information to be able to put it on the agenda. That's all I'm saying is, you know, I want to work with everybody to try and get this stuff on there. That's the big thing. I guess I should have called Adam back and said, what is this? What is this? I mean, I said to Denise, it's like I got 2 pieces of a 6-piece puzzle. I don't know what, you know, I don't know what this is. So that's the problem, is we just gotta, you know, I want to work with everybody to try and get the stuff that you want on the agenda, but I got to get it in a format so that it's clear to the public, so that we're being transparent, and so that we're doing the right things. That's what I'm trying to do. So if I let you down, I apologize, but the truth is that that's what we're trying to do. I want to make sure that you guys have something you can actually act on.
Rich, anything else?
no, thank you.
Okay. I have old business A, 11A, discussion of the payout for deconstruction for the 2024 road program, the amount of $21,029.43. That'll be up for a vote under the next meeting, on a regular meeting. Any questions on the road program while our engineer's here?
Question I have for D, is the punch list totally completed?
The punch list is completed, the restoration was the last thing, and Nick took a look through everything. We also walked through, and Nick was satisfied with where restoration was at with the grass level, and it'll be able to come in and when it gets to that 70% point, that's where IEPA will accept it anyway, so that's kind of where we were at, and Nick's confident it should be just fine.
And I know they'd been going back and forth on liquidated damages. Was any of that resolved?
It was already all resolved. There's 12,000 in liquidated damages that's included in the contract. So, yeah, it's all taken care of.
Okay, other questions? All right, item B is our discussion of possible approval in our next meeting for ordinance 25-09. This ordinance implementing the municipal grocery retailer occupation tax and a municipal grocery service occupation tax for the city of Sandwich. This is the tax the state of Illinois removed. We're just simply replacing it back. I think our economic developer said at this point he believes there's 200 municipalities in Illinois that have done this. So it's up for us to do the same thing so we don't have our taxes diminished by the state. Questions, comments?
When do we have to approve this?
Has to be filed before the end of the year, so we wanted to get it in so they had time. It has to go to Department of Revenue.
October 1st, I thought.
It won't take effect till the first payment of the year.
And actually, I think we're in the one that if we do it now, it's not gonna be effective till July 1st of next year. So,
It's the timing for us.
yeah, if we have to approve it by October, I believe, to be effective July 1st next year.
When the law changes. If not, then we'll delay it and miss out on the
And then
opportunity
it's-
for continuity.
I guess essentially April and October are the timeframes. So April, and you can get it for January 1st, October for July 1st.
Okay, new business, item A, discussion of clerk duties.
It was treasurer duties.
I'm sorry, treasurer duties? Maybe it's time to go home. I don't know. Treasurer duties?
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because there seems to be a misunderstanding of what the duties are. So I want to hear what the duties are
For me,
from anybody.
I just follow the code and the compiled statute.
Okay, so what is she allowed to do?
So I can give like a general overview here. There are a lot of things in the code that, in the municipal code of the state, that says what a treasurer does. But then there are a number of places where it says, however, that the city may designate so-and-so to do this. I didn't go through I started to go through every single provision of the Illinois Municipal Code about what the duties are of the treasurer. I did find this little like cheat sheet. But in essence, from our code, we have assigned a lot of the statutory duties from the Illinois Municipal Code to our clerk or collector. So, in our code, most of the treasurer duties are handled by the clerk or collector. And our statute essentially, our code essentially says that, there you go. Where'd it go?
All right, I'll
Oh,
give you-
here, yeah, shall accept copies of deposit slips and make monthly reports of deposits. In reality, that is,
Collector.
well, that's
That's what our code says for treasurer.
that's what our code says for treasurer. But that is a duplication of a job that is done by the collector with the originals. And so, I don't know. I mean, I think this was, I'm sorry. This was part of the reason we had put it on for a referendum, asking that we eliminate the elected position and we make it an appointed position, because there were other people in the city that already handle most of those duties. So,
Treasurer collects the occupancy tax from the hotels and takes it and gives it to the conventions and visitor bureau. Clerk does that, correct?
yes.
All revenues and money derived from the operations of the waterworks system shall be held by the city clerk and apart from other funds. And it is delivered to the city treasurer not more than 10 days after receipt of the revenues. I don't believe we've ever done that. Treasurer shall receive revenues from the waterworks system. Again, keeping separate funds, so it's waterworks system, and the treasurer shall administer such fund in respect to every manner. I don't believe we've ever done that. City treasurer shall establish a proper system of accounts and keep proper books of all accounts and correct entries in all transactions of the waterworks system. And at regular annual intervals, the treasurer shall cause an audit to be done. We just automatically have the audit done. We don't have the treasurer cause the audit. The treasurer will have a customary reporting statement of the wastewater facilities for the replacement costs, sewer charges, the water recovery system, the industrial recovery system, and the financial information, including data flow, billing gallons, number of users, non-metered users, discharge users. We do that now, but we keep it internally, and we turn it in for the bond process when we do our EMA filing every year. So many of the things that the treasurer does are already done by somebody else, or we have a different process because we haven't had a treasurer, or they've been delegated to someone else. Those are just some of them. There's a lot more in the code book.
And I will say, like I said, I did not go through all hundreds of pages of the municipal code. I mean, I started to, but anything where it says shall in the Illinois Municipal Code, essentially because we haven't had the position, we have designated most of those duties to the clerk or collector. And so the truth is, I don't really know.
So we can find her $20,000 worth of work for $2,000 pay, but it seems like somebody else already does them. We'd have to change the whole code or realign it and make it.
And we can't
for something
increase
that-
the salary.
Yep, that's something that counts.
Not asking to increase the
Well, I know, I'm
salary.
just saying that,
I'm just saying that when she comes up to ask for a report for finances, she should be able to do that per the Illinois Municipal Code 965 ILCS 53135 to 45 statute. Should
Yep,
be,
told her she could get those reports, she can get the revenue from the collector, that our financial analyst will give her the expenses, she can get the investment reports, she can have the balance sheet from that individual.
right, but.
I don't think you just come in the office and tell everybody to drop what they're doing because you want a report.
No,
But
see,
I
that's
certainly
where
told
it's
her she
wrong.
could come in and get those.
That is not what has happened. I was the one that asked for one of the reports. He asked for the other one.
Yeah,
We're the alderman, we can ask for those reports. She also can ask for those reports, and she doesn't harass somebody up there. So look
I
at
didn't
the
say she
cameras
harassed them, I said
and
she
not get what
interrupted
other
their
people
work
are
day.
saying.
And if you want the wages, they're in your treasurer's report, you just have to read it.
But the
It also
treasurer's
tells
report's
you-
not even from her.
That's because the
So
city
we can't
pays
even
for it.
approve the treasury report on the
That's
regular
because you
meeting
just
because
approved,
it's not even her report.
you just
We gotta
approved
rename it.
Lauterbach and Altman to go ahead and do the report, which we've always done, even before I was mayor, we paid for this.
That's what we did before, but right now we have a treasurer, so we have to rename that because that's not her report, so it's a false report. It's gotta be named something else.
She can get the report and do it. I'd be more than happy to see it and hear it. It's very comprehensive and you already paid for it.
I'm just saying, we can't do that legally. If it's not her work, we can't approve a treasurer's report that the treasurer is not doing.
But the treasurer, Rich, you were the mayor. Did the treasurer do the treasurer's report?
Sorry, we didn't have a treasurer most of the time when I was mayor.
So we paid for someone to do the report, didn't we?
Yes, and we've not had somebody that's wanted to do the stuff that the treasurer wants to do. So that's the other thing. We haven't had somebody that's,
Did you go and ask for the reports, the revenue? It'll be for May.
Turn
Is
on
that
your
no?
mic.
I did not go in and ask for any reports from any one individual person. I had a meeting with Wes where Jeff showed up, Angie showed up, Mr. Danko showed up, and Mr. Danko asked for a report that I was told I cannot have access to. Jeff and Angie said there were some reports that were ready when Karsta and I were standing at her desk, and I'm like, Wow, that was fast because it was less than 24 hours after the meeting that we had with Wes. If y'all don't want me to oversight, that's just fine. I get $2,000 a year to do this job, which I knew when I came on board. But I have found there are so many mistakes and so many oversights in the financials for Sandwich. Me getting emails from the mayor, 1 minute I'm allowed to talk to Jeff, 1 minute I'm only allowed to talk to you.
That's a lie. I did not say that
The
to you.
email, right here.
Don't lie. That's not
Would
true.
you
I
like
did not
me
say
to
anything
read
about
it?
not talking to Jeff.
Would
I
you like
asked
me
you
to
if you
read it?
wanted a report, just ask me for it. These are employees. that
I
have a
am not
work-
going in and harassing
I
anybody.
didn't
The
say you
only
harassed
time I
anybody,
go
did-
into the office is with Karsta or someone else, or I have
All I
a
asked is that you
meeting.
ask me for the report, and I'll have that provided to you.
That is not what you said, and I will provide the emails.
I did, and you sat in my office with Jeff when you came in to meet me for the first time.
After it took how many weeks of me asking you what my job was? You are not my boss. I'm sorry to say, you are an elected
I'm aware
official
of that,
just
nor
like
do
I
I want to
am.
be ever.
You
It's
don't
very
need
cle-
to
It's
get-
very clear what it says in the code about what you do. I've never told you what to do. I
Yes,
told
you have.
I told you the city pays for a report that you can have access to, or you can do your own. Is that correct?
No, it is not.
Okay.
And I am not going to give a financial report that I had absolutely no input or advice making.
Well, you didn't have to. Council can still accept it on the consent agenda, but that's what it's always been called.
Well, it needs to be named something different.
Okay, well, maybe next month we will. What reports do you need to do the treasurer's report?
Excuse me?
What reports do you need to do the treasurer's report?
The same ones that I managed to get when I get them from Jeff today. How do you do a report when you get them the day of the meeting?
I don't know. You could have asked me for them.
I did.
You asked me.
I'm not going to sit here in a public meeting and argue with you because I have emails.
Well, you've done
I
it for
save
about 2
everything.
years, so why would it change? So what report do you need? You didn't ask me for the
Council,
reports.
step up.
What report do you need? That's all I'm asking you. And
I
when-
don't
and
need
when-
anything from
when
you
do
at this moment.
And when do you need them?
I don't need anything for you at this moment.
Okay. All right, moving on to B, Constellation Energy Contract for City Facilities.
Okay, we had the presentation last week on this from Constellation. There was a question that was arisen, that
on,
came up
everybody.
in the Finance Committee with regard to the delivery fees that show up on the Constellation bill. Those are actually the same as the ComEd fees. Actually, Sean is here from Progressive Energy if you have any additional questions. Basically, what Progressive did is went through the process of collecting bids on the 11 different locations that we have here in the city, that we have electric accounts, and then we have one account, the wastewater treatment plant, that has a high and low peak price. I'll let Sean go ahead and talk a little more if you want.
Good evening. Yes, Jeff said that there was a question at the Finance Committee, so I just wanted to make sure. The question was, what does UDC mean? And that's the utility distribution charge. So even you're getting your bills by Constellation right now, you still have to pay ComEd's delivery and taxes. Those are put onto the Constellation bill with your supply charges. So the decision, or the recommendation, is to remain with Constellation for the electric supply portion of your bill, and you will still have the ComEd delivery fees and taxes. In the updated recommendation report, I did also include, Councilman, you did ask to add in the ComEd delivery fees for a total financial cost analysis. So I did put the comparison in what it would be if you would have been with you go to ComEd at their current default rate versus what it would be with Constellation. And I think it's about a $37,000 difference between the two. I have the exact number right here.
Right, I think you're showing 82,768 with Constellation and
For the supply.
108,853 with ComEd, correct?
Yeah, so it's total energy spend would be 157.36, or if you went back to ComEd for the utility tariff rates to be 196,964. So the recommendation is to continue with Constellation on peak, off peak for supply on the wastewater treatment plant, and then an all-in fixed supply for the smaller satellite facilities, lift stations, and so on. This doesn't include your franchise accounts, which are the accounts that you get franchise electricity from ComEd for lines or anything else to that effect. So you have like City Hall as a, certain facilities that get free, essentially franchise powered. This does not include those.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's the on-peak, off-peak for the sewer plant,
Yep.
but would it be beneficial? Are we allowed to do that with other buildings or no?
Well, it's all based on the load factors. So because the wastewater treatment plant has more off-peak usage, off-peak power is typically lower. So as your facilities that don't have off-peak usage, there's really no benefit to go to that type of program because it's typically powered during the day. So unless you change the usage profile of those accounts, you'll still be
Right.
billed for an on-peak price, which is typically the reason why we bundle up the small facilities and take advantage of the off-peak power for the larger use
Well,
account.
even on-peak, it's still cheaper than a fixed rate.
Yeah, but you still have capacity charges, transmission
Okay.
charges, and ancillary charges. So those cost components are bundled in on the smaller for a set fee. It's easier to budget for the city council for those, and then we know what the budgetary is for the wastewater treatment plant. Also looking forward into other potential programs that we may talk about for other programs that could reduce the peak loads on those facilities. By having that program in place, then that will just correspond into those other programs.
Okay, other questions?
Yeah, I do have a question, and I'm just trying to get my head around this UDC charge.
Yep.
How do they calculate that? Because I'm looking at one bill where so many 282 kilowatts came out to like $20.12. And then I go down here, the UDC charge is $94.89.
Yeah, so if you go to page 4 of that bill that you're looking at, I think it should have the ComEd utility bill charges. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh,
So you see there,
okay.
each account has different rate classifications. ComEd has 0 to 100, which are small, 100 to 400, 400 to 1,000, 1,000 to megawatt, and then 10 megawatts and above. So based on your rate classification, you are charged a monthly customer charge based on that rate classification. That could range from $34 all the way up to $138, depending on the classification. Then also you have a monthly meter charge. Each one of the meters has a monthly charge or a lease fee. And then you also have a distribution facilities charge. That's one of the largest line items on there. So based on the utility rate classification, you have a different distribution facilities charge. So your residential account has all the same bills. And then if you go into the other fees, you have energy transition charge, renewable portfolio charge, carbon-free resource adjustment. Those really vary based on kilowatt hour usage or taxes. So it's all based on the rate classifications. That's the difference in the charges. So if you look at the water treatment plant, it has much higher delivery charges than a small office building per se, or even your house.
I think that's one of the benefits to doing it this way is that Sean can explain this stuff and make sure that we are in the right rate codes and things like that. I know in another place when I worked with him, we were in the wrong places. So we were paying even more because things weren't rated the proper way. So I think that is the real benefit of this is that we're able to buy the Constellation Energy. We're buying the energy from them. We still have to pay Commonwealth Edison to deliver it, but there is a savings there. And I think it's also nice because then we've got somebody who's keeping an eye on it for us.
Yeah, because your charges are not that bad. I mean, it's like there's that one bill for $3.50, but there's a $28.75 delivery charge.
Yeah, that's how ComEd.
And those are on our bills at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah,
'cause
so
that
it's
did not make sense.
deregulation. You can choose the supply, because if you go to ComEd, they buy it, you have to pay for what they buy it. Deregulation allows you to get it at a cheaper rate, but you still have to pay the delivery charges. That's ComEd's profit revenue right there.
Thank you for the education.
No, great questions.
Okay, other questions from council? All right, thank you. It'll be on the next meeting for a vote.
Thank you.
Item C is the ComEd Curbside EV Ready Pilot Program Agreement. Jeff, you want to talk about that?
I do. I'm actually hoping Don's still here, so maybe
Oh,
he can
there, Don.
talk to
Come
us a
on.
little bit about it.
Don, you're so quiet, I didn't even know you were back there.
You didn't ask me hardly anything. We've been approached by the ComEd manager of the Smart Grid program, and ComEd is offering free charging stations to municipalities. What we're looking for every location, there would be 2 chargers, and we'd have to talk about level 1, level 2. I'll talk about with them. In the packet I sent you, there's all sorts of locations here downtown. They like to see a lot of traffic. Right now, we're in the phase that's, before we can get the design and plan, we need to have you sign the agreement that says you're interested to go forward. The units, the installation, and everything that goes with it, there's no charge to the city. I've done this in a previous program where it wasn't as generous as this. We had to pay for certain things. I can tell you that the faster charging unit is somewhere around $36,000, and the slower one is about $25,000. So this is significant money that they're investing in us. Plus, they do all the installation. And you'll see in here, they call it the curbside EV charging, because that's where their utility is. They want to be as close to their utility as possible. In my previous employment, we had to move one 85 feet across a parking lot, and we paid for the 85 feet. It was very expensive. So that's why we want to keep it right on the curbside. Working with the library was interested. The board kind of turned it down last week, but now after a conference call this morning, they're back. They didn't understand. What we are left with is complete installation. You're talking about probably close to $80,000 for the 2 units to be there. You have to have 2 units at each location, no charge. Then we would have to pay you want a software maintenance fee, because ComEd is always changing the kilowatts and what the charges are for the day. And then we would probably want to take maintenance contract out with the contractor on the unit itself in case something goes wrong. There is a 1-year warranty, so maybe we could delay that first year, 1 year, and we would collect all the revenue. We get all the revenue that comes through. The person goes up, puts their credit card in, signs up, charges up, and we get all that revenue sent to us, and that in turn offsets the maintenance fees. Pretty simple program, much more generous than what they used to be. All they need is an agreement with us by the end of the month. That's why we had to put it on today's meeting. And then I sent that to them hopefully tomorrow, and we set up a site walk, and you'll see there's numerous locations. Preferably, I'd like to see it right across the street at the gazebo, somewhere within eyesight of the Opera House, only because we get big crowds, a chance to market it. It's something for your downtown. Where we did it, and I did it in 2 other places, I had downtown businesses arguing, fighting for the, please put it in front of my business. They think it's a great thing for marketing. So it's an easy program. Again, no cost on a major project, and just need your approval and move forward. Any questions?
Questions from council?
Actually, because I looked at the 300, 400 for a year for the smaller unit, 300, 800 a year for the larger units. How many total units are looking to do?
Like I said, 2 at 1 location. If you want to do more locations.
So
then
2
it'll be
total
4.
units.
And if you look on that, because I asked, what's the cost, because I know you want to know the cost. It's from the U.S. Department of Energy, where they income average everything across the board. So we will have to get very more specific numbers, but they're pretty much in that range. We paid $200, I paid $250 a year on the last ones for the software.
Is this money we already have budgeted for somewhere?
Well, we're getting the money, we're getting the revenue.
Right, what I'm talking is the yearly fee.
But we're using the revenue from the charging to pay for it.
We obviously, Adam, we didn't budget for this because we didn't know that this was an opportunity necessarily.
So if we do move forward, where would we take the money?
Well, what we're hoping is that when people use it, they're going to be charged for it, and we're gonna derive the revenue from that, so that we would then be able to offset the costs of the maintenance agreement and then the software with those fees. So when I've never charged an electric car, but my understanding is when you drive up, you have to put your credit card in. You're still filling it with, it's not gasoline, but it's electric, so you're still paying so much to put it in there.
So do we have an estimate on what we get per charge?
Well, it depends on how much kilowatts, what's the cost of kilowatts at time.
But how much do we get?
Just like on your bill there where you're talking about.
Right, but like
We get all that, plus we get a service fee on top to help us.
roughly
cover
what would
costs.
the revenue be?
We have to talk about it.
Nobody
We have
knows.
to talk about it.
Okay.
Oh, like I say, in one location, we were making about 300 a month, the other location, we were making 800 a month. So we know which location was a better, you're trying to go where more people park for a period of time. When we put them at the community center, That's the one that did well. The City Hall didn't do too well, because people were in and out.
Don, does ComEd put all the electrical lines into it?
They do everything. They do all connections. Their contractor will have a permit with us. Of course, we won't charge them because it's free, but we'll monitor the progress and keep an eye on it.
So my question is, it's warranted for a year. And at that point, if somebody runs it over, what's the cost of replacement? And are we on the hook for that? at
No,
that
it's
point?
warranted.
After the year, Don.
I mean, that,
Well, after the year, then we would get a service contract with the installer and continue on with the, it's all in there. It's anywhere from 200 to 400. depending.
But physical damage, if a vehicle hits it, it
Yeah.
would be a
Liability.
That's just-
reimbursable
We're
liability.
covered.
insurance.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, that's just regular.
Plus, we're also
insurance.
covered on our insurance, but yeah, we're gonna get our money back.
But you
And
would have
plus,
to
we'll get,
schedule it, you'd lose that revenue while it's down and that sort of thing.
well, I think that's included in the insurance charges, so we want our revenue.
And Don, this kind of came about from your relationship with ComEd,
Yeah,
talking
we've
to
been
them
doing
and redoing
ComEd.
all the
Yeah,
lights.
we're
and
working
things
with
like-
them on this, on the lighting. Actually, they'll be out Thursday to finish the street lights and the lamps out front. Where Brad and I are working with them really close on those variable drives. There's been some changes. Matter of fact, I was notified today by the gentleman helping us with that ComEd is increasing their benefits on that package, so we're waiting to see what that increases before, and increased benefits mean less cost to us. Waiting to hear what that is before we present it to the council. And then actually the lady that runs or is the manager of the program lives in Sandwich. And her husband works for ComEd too. He was born and raised here, and she's driving downtown saying, why don't we have these? And I wasn't really aware of this program in this format, so I thought, oh yeah, we gotta talk about this. This is a good thing. This is a marketing tool.
Anyone else, questions?
And I will just say, I did review it, and I think that, the main things to know is that when we set the locations, we agreed to make those locations available to them. And then once they have done all the work, then they are all of our responsibility. But everything else, pretty soon.
And we don't have to have a maintenance contract on the unit,
Right.
but I wouldn't feel really safe not recommending that. It's gotta be covered. The software's constantly being updated nightly, so we need to pay for that.
Okay, anything else?
And we will get to decide what the location is.
Yeah, you see a list there. I want it right down in here, though. This is where we get the most. Opera House has an event, people park there for a long period of time. Board meetings, people park there for a long period of time. I think this would be, in Market City, we put them in our City Hall parking lot in the last place. We wanted people to come, well, we didn't have the street parking, so.
Right.
It's a progressive tool for marketing is what it really comes down to.
Adam, do you have a question? No? Okay, I guess it'll be up for a vote. Thank you, Don.
Okay. And I will find out revenue anticipated numbers when I talk to them tomorrow.
All right, also in your packet for discussion is a proposal from Gasvoda and Associates for our Sunset Lift Station improvements. Our administrator note says we budgeted $15,000. The estimate came in at $23,495, a little over what we anticipated. So that is there for your review and approval. Or any questions?
No, but I do have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
So essentially in talking to Brad today, and I understand we only have a single bid on it. The reason he said there's a single bid is a pretty specified thing. A lot of people don't have the certifications to do the work, like confined spaces, stuff like that. So for him to get it done last time, we're using the same company. We know they have the certifications. We know they can do the work. As far as budget-wise, it did come in over budget, but he also has a line item in the budget for repairing the asphalt at the sanitary plant. He's going to work with the streets department and have them do the crack filling, which will ultimately save us money on that we could take some of that budget and make up for it. Ultimately, it'd be a cost savings between the two line items.
Okay, so it'll be up for a vote the next meeting. Item E is our sales tax exemption indemnity agreement with Phase 4 FWLC. I'll let our attorney explain the reasoning behind granting that to them.
So the right-of-way the road there at the end of, what's the road, Jeff?
Oak Bend.
Oak Bend. So I don't know if everyone recalls that we had to give it back to them recently. So eventually, though, that's gonna be ours. And then all of the roads are gonna be ours. And the statute allows for a contractor to utilize a tax exempt sales and sales tax certificate from the municipality if it's related to improvements or infrastructure that will eventually become under the ownership of the city. And so, I think I don't know if there is or if there would be, it's not uncommon. There is a specific statute regarding this, and all I had prepared was an indemnity agreement that says that if they use it, they are fully liable for any sort of penalties, ensuring that they use it the right way and things like that. So that's just to protect the city for making sure that the certificate is used appropriately.
Okay, any questions on that? All right, I think all of our executive sessions are on the next meeting. Audience comments, Bill Fritsch, and I believe Bill's going.
He was talking to Don.
Oh. Nancy Songarath?
It's not gonna shock me, is it? Nope. All right, so I'm here, I'm currently the secretary on the Homeowners Association Board out at Fairwind. I just wanted to bring through, we just had a couple questions regarding concerns about the trees that are along the parkway on Southwind. And there may be some other streets out there too. Ryan Homes is currently not replacing them. They did come through, replace some things. And from my understanding, we've been told that if they've replaced a tree in the past, it's like a one and done situation. So if what they put in dies, we're kind of out of luck. So there's a concern about that. Also, is there a plan regarding all the broken sidewalks, the sidewalks not finished and everything that are going on out there? Is there any chance of, maybe not issuing any further permitting to Ryan Homes until they correct these, structures that are going on? It's dangerous for people that, walk. There's elderly that, love to go for a stroll, young families, and, I've seen people fall on the sidewalks. And then also, we are still waiting on our ponds committee. We need a copy from the engineering report regarding the capacity of Williams Pond. I was told it's been about 3 months, so we were looking if we could please get that wrapped up soon. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Do you have specific addresses of sidewalks? You could just send those to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll
We
share
can
those
get
with our
those to you.
staff. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Bill Fritsch.
Hello, my name is Bill Fritsch. I know most of you people, but I'm a member of the Opera House Board, and I'm here on their behalf. And I got two things I want to talk to you about. The first is I want to thank the city and the council for the help and cooperation for the Jimmy Buffett Tribute Pre-Concert Party. It came off really well. And in relation to what Don just talked about, the Charger, we had ticket sales from 35 different communities at that show, which was pretty cool, we thought. So I want to thank everyone for that, and we want to do it again in the future. And the second thing is, we're really happy that we were told that there was an architect actually on a lift looking at the Scudder problem. And he submitted drawings and plans. And I want to ask the mayor and everybody else to put this on the top priority list so we can get this fixed, because we got water damage on that wall, and it's only going to get worse, and it's going to cost a lot more to fix. So I feel bad about putting more on Jeff's plate, but that's the way it is. So thank you for the help, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any announcements, Jeff?
No.
Council? Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second?
Yes.
All All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, quick recess.